Good day, everyone. Welcome to The Great Inquiry, a journey through aesthetics, exploring the philosophy of beauty, art, and perception. S- If you can still remember, I said that aesthetics is one of the traditional branches of philosophy. Nowadays, we categorize it under axiology or the philosophy of value. That is, there are two values we need to consider, the value of the good and the value of the beautiful. So we have aesthetics for the value of the good and the beautiful, and for the beautiful we have the study right now. So that is why a journey through aesthetics, exploring the philosophy of beauty, art, and perception. For centuries, philosophers have grappled with fundamental questions about beauty, art, and our experience of them. This exploration is not a history lesson but a journey through the great inquiry of aesthetics, a series of foundational questions that invite us to see the world and the art within it in a new light. So, again, this is not art history but aesthetics guided by questions, a series of foundational questions that invite us to see the world and the art within it in a new light. Before us stands Botticelli's magnificent Birth of Venus, painted in the 1480s. This masterwork will serve as our gateway into profound questions that have occupied philosophers for centuries. Okay, so look at this painting. What do you see? Beauty, certainly. But what is that beauty? Is it in the graceful pose of Venus? Huh? The delicate rendering of her flowing hair? The harmonious composition? Or is beauty something you bring to this image? A response born from your own experience and cultural background? These aren't idle questions. They strike at the heart of how we understand art, beauty, and aesthetic experience itself. The field of aesthetics, which we might narrowly define as the theory of beauty, or more broadly as the philosophy of art, invites us to examine not just what we find beautiful, but why we find it so, and what that tells us about ourselves and our world. The very fact that this painting has captivated viewers for over 5 centuries suggests something important. Is there an objective quality to its beauty that transcends time and culture? Or has each generation simply projected its own ideals onto Botticelli's canvas? As we embark on this journey, we'll explore three fundamental questions. Each builds upon the last, taking us deeper into the philosophical terrain of aesthetics. We'll encounter ideas from thinkers spanning from ancient Greece to the present day, and we'll see how debates about art and beauty connect to larger questions about truth, value, and human experience. So let's begin our inquiry. So, again, no one is going to ask the question whether this is an artwork. This is truly an artwork. But how about this painting or this sculpture? Okay, are these also artworks? How about this one? Okay, so we compare a model and of course the Venus that is depicted in the painting, right? So this is the very Venus that is in the painting, The Birth of Venus. Okay, so an important a question that is related to this one is that how about pornographic materials? Can we also consider them as artworks? Okay, or perhaps there is no contradiction between a beautiful pornographic material and of course a beautiful painting or a nude painting of you know of a model. How about this one? I think you are very familiar with this. Okay, so we have the same, you know, the same background, the sea, and okay, she is also standing, almost having the same pose. But can we consider this also as an artwork? And if so, pare-parehas ba og iyang level sa katong painting nga nahimo pagka 1480s? No, parehas ba sila og value? No? Can we consider them of the same value? So again, let's begin this inquiry. So these are the three questions that we need to answer in this lecture. So the three questions are: number one, is beauty in the eye of the beholder? Second, what makes something art? And third, what is an art object really? And then again, let's begin this inquiry. Is beauty in the eye of the beholder? So our inquiry begins with the most immediate aesthetic experience, that is the judgment of beauty. Is this a purely subjective feeling, unique to each individual, or are there objective, universal principles that govern what we find beautiful? The 18th century, the dawn of modern aesthetics, was defined by this debate. So, our first question cuts straight to the core of aesthetic debate. Is beauty in the eye of the beholder? You've probably heard this phrase before, perhaps used to end an argument about whether a particular song, a painting, or building is beautiful. But is it true? And if it is, what are the consequences? Let us start with the great German philosopher Immanuel Kant, the towering figure of 18th century aesthetics. Kant would actually reject the idea that beauty is purely subjective, though his reasoning is subtle. For Kant, when we experience what he called pure beauty, our cognitive powers, understanding, and imagination are in what he termed free play. This happens when we encounter something without applying a definite concept to it. Think of scattered pebbles on a beach, the arbitrary patterns in foliage, or or a vibrant sunset. We're not judging these things by their purpose or function. We're simply experiencing them. Here's where it gets interesting. Kant argued that judgments of pure beauty have both objectivity and universality. Why? Because all humans share the same basic cognitive powers. When these powers harmonize in free play, they do so in ways that should be similar across individuals. So when I say the sunset is beautiful, I'm not just reporting my personal preference like saying I prefer chocolate to vanilla. I'm making a claim that others should agree with because they possess the same cognitive architecture. But Kant added another crucial element, that is disinterest. Okay, this notion of disinterest. And here we need to be careful because disinterested doesn't mean uninterested. Rather, it means we're not concerned with the object's utility or with possessing it or with any practical consideration. Pure aesthetic appreciation for Kant is selfless. The beautiful object simply holds our attention. We contemplate for its own sake as an end in itself rather than a means to something else. This is the ultimate art for art's sake. Diba? So this notion of disinterest had moral implications for Kant. He wrote that beauty is a symbol of morality and that enjoyment of nature is the mark of a good soul. By practicing selfless aesthetic attention, we prepare ourselves for the moral point of view, which also requires us to rise above self interest. The shared enjoyment of beauty shows there's harmony between us and the world. Okay? So, again, there are four key characteristics. This is the Kantian framework. Number one, freedom from concepts. Experience when our cognitive powers are in free play. Not judging an object's purpose. For example, appreciating the pattern of pebbles on a beach and not just identifying them as pebbles. Second is regarding objectivity and universality. arises from the cognitive powers common to all humans. The third is the notion of being disinterested, the selfless appreciation, free from sensual gratification or the desire to possess the object. It is enjoyed for its own sake alone. And number four, obligatoriness is selfless attention, is a moral exercise. Beauty is a symbol of morality, Kant wrote, as it initiates us into a selfless point of view. Okay? So we'll continue next time.